The All-Star game came down to a swing-off last night, and the Pirates made a deal this morning trying to add power to a position of need. As the deadline approaches, the Pirates need to sell and buy. That's next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Pirates. I'm Gary Morgan. Today we have a trade to discuss as Adam Frazier was shipped to Kansas City for Cam Devanney. I want to discuss how the All-Star game went for Paul Skenes and how it ended as well. A little bit of a focus on the Pirates' overall philosophy at the deadline that I think they need to have. So let's start with trading Adam Frazier. They traded a rental Adam Frazier, and when we say rental, what we mean is somebody that is on an expiring contract. You'll hear these terms thrown around a lot, and it's been brought to my attention recently in some of the comments that maybe I need to define those a little bit better. So a rental is somebody that you have no team control of or very little, and you're going to move them because you're going to lose them one way or another, and you'd rather lose them for something than nothing. So they traded Adam Frazier for Cam Devanney. It's a smart move. Let's just get that right out of the gate. Whether it works or not, Frazier was going to go. And all the upside in the deal is with the Pirates here. Devanney was drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers in the 15th round back in 2019, so right before that COVID season that basically robbed him of 2 years of doing anything. And he came out of Elon University, which is a college. And, you know, when you get a college player and then they can't play for a couple years and they're already at an advanced age when you draft them, let's just say you get to 28 real quick, okay? In 2023, Devanney was traded to the Royals from the Brewers and spent time with their AAA affiliate, the Omaha Storm Chasers, one of my favorite teams in all of minor league baseball, at least as far as the names go. His 2025 season has been particularly impressive, though. He's played 69 games, posted a .272 batting average with 18 home runs, 55 RBI, and a .931 OPS that ranks him among the top hitters in the International League. His performance earned him a call-up to the Kansas City Royals on July 8th, but he has not actually played in any of the games yet since being called up. So he's technically not made his debut, although no matter what Adam does in KC, though, the Pirates have added a guy at a position of need with power. It's a perfect marriage for a team selling off rentals, but in need of MLB help. I mean, as we talk about a little bit later, we're going to get into my belief that this team needs to be a buyer and a seller at the deadline. Well, this type of move is exactly in that vein. And let me explain why I think that. Because if you just wanted to sell Adam Frazier just because you wanted to sell Adam Frazier, you probably are going with a higher upside type prospect, somebody a little bit lower down in a system, somebody that's going to take a little bit longer to actually get here, but somebody that when they get here, you think they're going to provide something more than they have. What Devanney is a classic blocked prospect. And being drafted in the 15th round, that gets you blocked. That gets you blocked, if only because you're kind of pushed down the priority list of what this team wants to get done, what they want to actually get moved through their system. So you look at a guy like Devanney and you think, well, he was drafted in the 15th round by somebody else way back then. He's 28 years old. I mean, what's the upside here if we get him up here? I mean, his best years might actually already have happened in AAA. At least that's some of the current thought process on things like this. But Devanney, you know, it's fair to say, where was he going to play on Kansas City? They've blocked him up just about everywhere. And the beauty of having a guy like Adam Frazier is he can sit on your bench. He can play in the outfield. He can play in the infield. You can give him no at-bats for a week and then give him 50 the next week, and he's going to be the same player for you. And that's kind of what a veteran brings in. And if KC thinks they're going on a run, they would prefer to have the veteran versus the rookie. That's all. And a rookie that, let's be honest, it's a swing. This is very much in the vein of an acquisition like Billy Cook, who was 26 when they got him. Hopelessly blocked, really in his case, by a flood of other prospects that were just higher ranked. Nick York was blocked mostly because the Red Sox had filled in just about everywhere where he could play or had at least shown proficiency to play. And he hasn't made it back up here yet either. And he doesn't have the shortstop capability, and neither does Billy Cook. They're going to need that, especially because I think they're going to have to move IKF. And in fact, they've assigned Devanney to the minors right away, which tells you just about all you need to know about where they plan to play him, when they're going to play him. This is also reminiscent, if you ask me, of another deal they made not all that long ago for Alika Williams. Alika Williams was a prospect. He was a former number 1 pick, so he had a little more pedigree. But there he was in Tampa, and he just started emerging with some power in the minors, and that's right when the Pirates picked him up. They picked him up because of that power spike. The bat showed up. The glove was never a question. Well, this is a little bit different. This guy's hit in the minors. Just this year, he's hitting a little bit more. And the power has been there for a few seasons, so you can kind of guesstimate that that's pretty real. The OPS has even lived for a few seasons. The thing I'm most worried about is the bat-to-ball skills at 271. It's good, but it's AAA, and he's 28, and you'd kind of like to see him hitting a little bit higher than 300 even, like to just really buy into the narrative that he's being blocked. That said, I have every belief that he's a very capable shortstop. Arm's good. Everything looks good on the fielding metrics. I'm not seeing a ton of an inordinate amount of errors anyway. And they've used him at shortstop, and so has his previous organization over. And that just doesn't happen when it's not a good position for you. So I think he's going to be a good fielder. I think he's the most logical replacement for IKF when they do make that move. The other guy that I think I'd want to kind of compare this to a little bit is a guy like Nick Solak. Nick Solak, he's hit okay in the minors, and he's been bounced around, and he can play just about anywhere. And when he gets up to the majors, it's kind of like deflating. You don't necessarily want to use him all that much. You don't want to give him as much of a chance as some of your other highly touted prospects. He's 30 years old, so what's the real upside there? That's another guy that I think you're going to hear a little bit of a comparison to. And that shouldn't be taken as a total negative. It's not. I actually think this is a really good swing for a rental property. Okay. Like, I'm trying to sell Adam Frazier. I know what my options are. I can get money back for the international pool. I can get a player to be named later. I can get a lottery ticket. And let's circle back to our buzzwords, right? Lottery ticket typically means somebody that's in the lower levels of the minors, somebody that's going to take you a bit of work to get him to the point where he might impact your major league team. And the Pirates just aren't in a place where I think they want to take in a lot of that. They can, and they have other rentals, and they will take in more of those players because there's going to be some guys you just don't have a choice. You're going to have to. And you don't want to add a ton of fodder to the 40 man, if you know what I mean. Meaning if you don't think that the guy has a legitimate chance to impact the major league level, you're not going to try to bring them in here just to clog up your 40 man that you're eventually going to have to clean out come December, because you are going to have to make room for some guys. We already look at the roster and know there's some 40-man spots that have to come. You're going to have to get one for Barco. You're going to have to get one for Chandler. You're going to probably have to get one for, say you want to give a shot to like Malcolm Nunez. You're going to have to make some decisions like that. And you even got like Jack Brannigan hanging out in Double-A, who's coming up on that number. You're gonna have to start making some choices here for guys you don't want to worry about losing. And the more guys you bring in like Devanney, if you don't have designs on getting them up to the majors, well then that's probably not a move you want to make. You're not looking to just build up depth in AAA. You're looking to bring in guys that can actually help. And that's a lot of the problem looking at the AAA roster this year. There's not a lot of help. Even like Nick York, talk about trying to bring him up. Where? Like, honestly, he's not going to start over Brian Hayes. He can't play shortstop. You're not going to start him over Nick Gonzalez. Nick Gonzalez has been one of our most productive hitters since he returned from the IL. And Nick York is limited in the outfield. Limited. The arm strength's not great. And it's not really his forte. He's better in the dirt. So it's a tough call-up. Billy Cook, great in the outfield. Great defender. Not the best bat. The bat hasn't really shown up. The power's spotty. The hitting's spotty. He can play anywhere you want, just about, except shortstop. Maybe third base, I think, would be a stretch for Billy Cook. But he can play the right side and all the outfield. Not great fits for what this team has to have right now. So going out and getting somebody like Devanney, well, that's another good fit. And I think it fills a hole that this team is going to create when they move IKF, because we were staring down the barrel at probably getting Jared Triolo back up here to play shortstop, or maybe even Alika Williams, God forbid. They just do not have a good shortstop. Chang is not ready. It just isn't happening. They added him to the 40-man. I was hoping for some more progress, but the bat isn't coming. If you just want the position fielded, Chang and Triolo can do it. But if you want a chance at somebody that's actually going to contribute offensively, this was a good move. A good starter. We've wet our beaks. The trade deadline is underway. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about the rest of the trade deadline and having a buy and sell mentality. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're plumbing, HVAC, electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. All right, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Thank you for joining me again today. Hit the subscribe button, hit me with a like, and also don't forget, tomorrow is our Ask Me Anything episode. I put something in the posts here on YouTube, but you can certainly find me on any of the social channels, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and X, whatever we're calling it. Send me a question. Make sure I try to address it as best I can in tomorrow's episode. This team needs to sell. Clearly, they are sellers at this deadline, but they also need to buy. It's a strange place to be, and honestly, a place most teams fail to actually live in. It's very hard to sell and buy at the same time, and today I'm going to try to explain why. I'm going to start by calling back on this Adam Frazier trade. First of all, that is threading a needle to get the kind of return they just got. First of all, this is I think the Royals' number 10 prospect on some ranking systems. To get that in return for a rental is kind of insane to begin with, especially a rental that, to be blunt, just doesn't add much juice to the proceedings. This is a bench player. This is at best maybe a left-handed option when they don't feel like using Jonathan India. I mean, that's all this is a utility guy. And At that, just a couple months of a utility guy that they just had eyes on, not even a couple seasons ago. They know what he is. They know where he's at. They know what he's got. So, I mean, to get anything out of them is kind of insane. But I don't mean just individual trades. I mean like their overall philosophy. Let's do it for instance, okay? Like if you're really thinking about just improving next year's team, it's a different philosophy than what the Pirates tend to do. The Pirates tend to want control back from a player. Like this is a perfect example. Adam Frazier has no control. He goes out. Devanney has 6 years of team control. He comes back. Now, the caveat there is if he uses all 6 years of control here as a Pittsburgh Pirate, he'll be 34 years old, before he's even done with arbitration, which means he really doesn't have too much of a career left if he got that far. So that's one way to look at it. Another way is there are going to be guys on the block from other teams that are very similar to what the Pirates are trying to sell in some cases, okay? Not the rentals so much. We don't really care about 2025. I don't want help in 2025 necessarily, unless it's going to be around in 2026 too. So you have to look at other teams. Like let's take the Texas Rangers, for example. They have Adolis Garcia is apparently on the block. Big power hitting outfielder, good outfielder. Really having a down season, not his best year. The Rangers are struggling mightily offensively and killing it with the pitching. Well, this is probably what makes this a bad marriage, but I'm still going to use the Rangers and Adolis Garcia as an example of the type of thing I think the Pirates could look for. See, that guy being on the block is the type of player that I think the Pirates could go out and target. And he helps in 2026. I'm not claiming that he helps you get into the future or he holds down a position for you for years and years to come. But because he only has one more year of team control via arbitration, and he is owed a little bit of money this year. I think you'd probably be looking at about $4 million by the time this deal would come off for 2025. He would help immediately. He'd add pop to this lineup. He'd fill the outfield position, and he'd do it again next year via his arbitration. You have 1 year of arbitration with him, and I think that is something the Pirates could look to do. It's going to be a big arbitration number. Probably not as big as it would be if he was having a great season, but I think you're going to be looking at somewhere in the 10 to 12 range for his salary. But that's a good power hitter that you can add to this rotation. A World Series or this order, a World Series winner. It doesn't have to impact your team for the next decade for this to be a decent acquisition. In this case, the Rangers would be the sellers, right? And the Pirates would be the buyers. So what would you sell to them for Garcia? I don't think you'd be selling them a major league asset. I think you could sell them a minor league asset. You've got some guys that are interesting that they might want to check out, right? You're taking an outfielder from them, and they've got some replacements there that they can play with. Their pitching is good, but their pitching is also old and relatively fragile in some places. So I would think that you'd probably be able to work out some kind of way where one of your prospect arms is interesting enough to get the party started. And then maybe you drop another minor league prospect on them that you think is going to be a problem, or you're not going to want to try to hold on to, or you don't want to have to worry about the Rule 5 draft with. You can find somebody like that. There's a decent amount of those types of players in there. No, they're not going to want nothing for Adolis Garcia. You're going to have to give them good prospects. But this is an instance where I think the Pirates can go out and actively be buyers in the middle of a seller's market, okay? They can still go out and trade all those rentals and everything, but that doesn't mean you can't work on 2026. This team has an issue convincing people to sign here. And it's not just about money. It is mostly about money. I mean, if Bob Nutting would authorize it, I'm sure you could just up the ante and strong arm somebody into taking the deal here. And I'm not even going to claim that they've tried, but I just think it's a difficult sell to get somebody to come here unless they're a lower tier free agent. If you want to hire one, to me, I think this is a perfect way to do it. It would be as though you went out and signed Adolis Garcia for 1 year, which is the wet dream for this organization. That's all they ever want to do is sign somebody for 1 year. So this sort of thing is a sweet spot for me. Take on an approach like that. Go find a guy that's only got 1 year left. Don't worry about 2027. Worry about 2026. Worry about having a power threat in your outfield next year. That's the type of thing I think they could do. Don't take this as like Adolis Garcia is my whole idea and it's got to be Adolis Garcia. But he's a dude. I think you could look at other teams that are in similar situations. Like the A's have Soderstrom, I think is a guy that you could go after. He's kind of misplaced now because of Nick Kurtz coming up, and the A's, you know, they have some room there where they can deal, and they too have a hard time signing guys. So maybe this is a situation where you can almost look at them and say like, hey, we've got a guy that's signed. This is where I think like a Mitch Keller deal maybe could come together. And the A's are historically very good at drafting and developing. So you get somebody out of their AAA level along with Soderstrom for a guy like Keller, and I think you might actually have a marriage there. Get what I mean? Buyers and sellers. That's what I want the Pirates to be at this deadline. That's what I think they have to be. They have to try to find a way to thread this needle. It's not about who does it either. I think the professional scout team is led by Horowitz now, and he's been doing a great job, I think, identifying guys in the draft the last couple years. It's really changed some things. And as far as like their trade acquisitions, I think like the only real overt miss last year was Brian De La Cruz, and they really traded next to nothing for Brian De La Cruz. So if anything, I kind of looked at that as like a wishful thinking type deal anyway. Miami wanted more for De La Cruz than they got, and they actually that deal, if you remember, actually came in like 20 minutes after 4, and it was like, oh, okay. So basically Miami caved to whatever Ben Cherington was willing to sell, which was 2 lower ranked prospects that weren't going to make it. They won't make it in Miami either. Just saying. So I didn't have a problem with the swing in there, and they missed. That's all there is to it. They missed. But I don't think that makes it like impossible to see them pulling off any kind of a deal again. I think this team does need to kind of be two-sided in their thought process here. You can't just go into this thinking that I've got all these guys I've got to ditch, so be it. I think you need to kind of have your eyes open, looking towards 2026. See if you can take advantage of somebody that somebody's got for sale. Look around this league, see what's actually there. I don't believe any of the rumors coming out of the Yankees that Jason Dominguez is actually available for anything, period. But if he is, well, buy him. You know, sell them, especially if it takes something reasonable. Especially if it's a guy like Ke'Bryan Hayes that you think might be a problem withering on the vine here. You got him for a long time. Let that be someone else's problem and take what's for sale. Have a buyers and sellers mentality. Never lose sight of 2026. That's what I want the Pittsburgh Pirates to do at this deadline. When we come back, let's talk about that crazy All-Star game last night and Paul Skenes' performance in particular. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. I have streaming apps coming out my backside sideways. And I used Monarch to look through all of them, and I went and attacked it and started bundling them and finding ways I could get them free from other services I was already paying for. Wound up saving a ton of money and didn't lose any service. Monarch Money's pretty sweet. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. All right, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Hey, Paul Skenes dominated his one inning in the All-Star game. Struck out the first two batters he faced, got Aaron Judge to ground up the middle to Ketel Marte. What would have almost definitely been a base hit if he were pitching in front of his Pirates defensive unit, I think, because Aaron Judge was trucking, and that was a ground ball that had eyes on it. Ketel Marte made a heck of a play on it, actually. And Paul Skenes just decided he wasn't going to walk anybody this time. That's what he did in the last All-Star game. Not happy about that. And he wanted to strike out the side. That was his stated intent. He did not come through there, but he definitely did look great. Threw nothing but fastballs, hit 100 miles an hour a few times, kind of what I said he would do. He gave it a real reliever mentality, but he didn't try to showcase his repertoire. He just went up there and threw cheese over and over and over again, and I loved it. There was some really great things to see in this All-Star game. Clayton Kershaw was really cool to see. I thought he handled it really well being mic'd up. I didn't like the players being mic'd up during play. This is already enough of a clown show to me that I was a little frustrated by it, especially when it's like the catcher and the pitcher and they're just openly talking about what they're going to throw. I just didn't dig that. I'm glad that Skenes didn't participate in that. I'm sure they begged him to. They seemed to beg just about every player to. Pete Crow Armstrong was mic'd up out in the outfield. I kind of liked what he had to say. I mean, I can sit here and say on the top, I don't like them all being mic'd up, but that doesn't mean that I don't get anything out of it or enjoy a little bit of it. Pete Crow Armstrong, that was a cool side to him, just to hear some of his advice to kids. Like, kids want to be like you. And he's like, don't be like me, be like you. Like, I thought that was great. And it just fed into, I've been having a lot of conversations with Travis Snyder, former Bucko that has his own company called 3A Athletics that he's started up. And it's all about just teaching youngsters how to play and families having a better relationship throughout that process and getting your own mental state in place before you go out onto the field. A lot of the things he said were what I was hearing from PCA. It was really good to hear. He seems like a really centered kid, and I don't want to like a Cub, so please don't don't think that I'm automatically going after the Cubbies here or anything. All in all, it was a fun game. The National League was up 6-0 at one point. The American League stormed all the way back. American League has dominated this game for the past decade, so I guess it's to be expected. It ends up coming down to a swing off, which is basically like a modified home run derby where each team picked 3 players. They each got 3 swings, and whoever had the most home runs wins. Well, Kyle Schwarber ends up hitting 3 in his 3 swings, which sounds about right if you've watched him play. It was cool. It was kind of exciting. The players were all into it. And it started bringing up a little bit of a national conversation. Like, would you prefer seeing games end this way rather than the runner at second base that we're doing right now for extra innings? And I'd have to say no, personally. I don't like the runner at second base either. I would do away with both of them. I just think that you should have to earn something. If you can't score a run, that's on nobody but you. And I kind of hate getting the head start. I guess as a Pirates fan, Sometimes it's the only time I've seen a guy at second base the whole game, so I probably shouldn't hate it, but I don't like it. Just the purist in me would rather it not be, and I certainly don't want to turn it into a gimmick at the end of the game, where guys are just lined up to hit home runs. I'd also say for this roster, it doesn't set up well. You'd have O'Neal Cruz and do what he does, and who do you go to after that? It's like gonna be pretty sure to pop you a home run, even in a batting practice venue. I'm not sure that I have a lot of options here as a Pittsburgh. Andrew McCutchen probably, but if you're in PNC Park, is that the best choice? He's got to pop at 420 just to get it over the wall. I don't know. I really don't. I don't think I like it. I think I'd rather just avoid that at all costs. We also had the ABS system in the All-Star game. Many of you saw it already in spring training. And if you follow the minors, you've been watching it for a while. I thought it was executed pretty well, probably a little bit slower than I've seen it in the minors. In the minors, it's much more instantaneous. It's from the time the catcher tips his cap to the time that they have that answer in hand. It's usually pretty seamless. Last night, I actually saw like Tarek Skubal had to turn around and kind of face the outfield and wait. It looked like a 15-second process. That's a little bit more in your face than I think we want this to be. And I say we as this game. I don't think that's what you want. I think you want it to be instantaneous correctness. And I like that it didn't get abused last night. Players, they were pretty true to it. They took some bad calls and left it go. And that was a big situation. Okay, they challenged. And that's kind of the responsibility of how it needs to be handled. So it's good to see them start to put that into practice. I see very little doubt that this will be the law of the land next year. So get used to it. And that means an awful lot more big calls being done by a computer miles and miles away, right? So interesting stuff. All-Star game was fun. I'm kind of looking forward to get back to baseball, real baseball. Believe it or not, even as a Pirates fan, I miss real baseball when we get to this point in the season. So I'm ready to run the race the rest of the way with all of you. And let's hope the Pirates are buyers and sellers, because that's exactly what they need to do this year. That's all I got for you. Another show tomorrow. Ask me anything, of course. Make sure you get your questions in. Let's go Bucks.